They never found him, but they did find his camera. This story is based on a real, publicly reported case involving a solo outdoorsman who disappeared in a remote forest. Details have been altered for privacy. He was experienced. That was the first thing everyone said afterward. He wasn't reckless. He didn't wander aimlessly. He'd spent years hiking and hunting alone. That's why no one panicked when he didn't check in the first night or the second. It wasn't until the third day that concern turned into something else. He had gone deep into a wooded area that bordered protected land, no marked trails, no cell service. Just forest that went on for miles. He planned to be gone for 4 days. He left behind a written itinerary, where he'd camp, which direction he'd hike. When he'd return, everything was planned. The last message he sent was simple. Something's off out here, probably nothing. I'll explain when I'm back. That was it. No follow-up. When authorities began searching, they expected to find him injured, maybe lost, maybe sick. What they didn't expect was how normal everything looked. His camp was intact, tent still. Standing supplies untouched. Food still sealed. Nothing appeared disturbed, except for one detail. His boots were missing. About a month later, during a secondary search, they found something. Half buried near a tree line, a camera, still intact, still holding data. The last photos were taken over the course of 2 nights. The first few images were normal.trees. The campsite, a fire at dusk. Then the angle changed. The camera was no longer at chest height. It was pointed outward. From inside the tent, low.as if he was lying down. The next photo was taken at night, blurry, dark, but something was visible, a figure, standing just beyond the firelight. Too tall to be a trick of perspective. The figure wasn't facing the camera, it was facing the tent. The timestamps told a story. The photos weren't random. They were taken minutes apart. Each time, the figure was closer, still never looking directly at the lens, still standing, still waiting. The final image was taken just before dawn. The camera was no longer in the tent. It was outside, placed on the ground, pointing back toward where the tent had been. The tent wasn't there anymore. Investigators noted something unsettling. There were no signs of a struggle. No torn fabric, no scattered gear, no blood. Just bare footprints leading away from the campsite. Not his, too large, too deliberate. They stopped suddenly, as if whoever made them had put their shoes back on. The case remains open. Some believe he was stalked for days. Others believe he was watched long before he ever noticed. The camera was returned to the family. They refused to keep it. What makes this disturbing isn't what happened to him. It's what didn't happen. No panic, no sudden violence, just patience. Whatever was out there didn't chase. It waited. If you had seen the first photo, would you have left immediately or stayed, trying to convince yourself it was nothing? The park ranger told us to leave immediately. He wouldn't explain. And that's what scared me. This story is based on a real, publicly reported incident involving hikers in a protected forest. Details have been altered for privacy. A friend and I were camping in a national forest we'd visited before. No marked campground, no cell service, just trees, quiet, and distance from everything. We hiked in late afternoon and set up camp before dark. Everything felt normal. Too normal. Around dusk, we noticed something odd. Footprints. Not animal tracks, human ones. Barely visible, but recent. They circled our campsite. Not randomly, deliberately. We assumed another hiker had passed through. Still, we hadn't seen anyone. That night, I woke up to a sound I can't really describe. Not footsteps. Breathing. Slow, controlled. Coming from just beyond the fire ring. I didn't move. Through the tent fabric, I could see a shape. Standing. Not approaching. Not leaving. Just there. After what felt like minutes, it moved away. No branches snapped. No leaves crushed. Just silence. At first light, we checked the area. There were footprints again. Closer this time. Right up to the tent. Next to them were marks in the dirt. Kneeling marks. Someone had been crouched there, watching us sleep. We packed up immediately and started hiking out. About halfway back to the trailhead, we encountered a park ranger. He asked if we had camped overnight. When we said yes, his expression changed. He asked where. We told him. He didn't ask follow-up questions. He just said, "You need to leave the park, now." No explanation. No warnings posted, just urgency. Before we left, he quietly added something I still think about. "If you hear breathing at night, it's not an animal." He escorted us back to the parking area. As we drove away, we noticed another vehicle parked farther down the road. Windows fogged, engine still warm. Weeks later, I searched for reports. I found a brief local article. It mentioned hikers reporting a man living deep in the forest. No ID, no known residence. He had been approaching campsites at night, watching, leaving before sunrise. They never said if he was caught. What makes this terrifying isn't the woods, it's the patience. Someone was close enough to hear us breathe and chose not to make themselves known. Would you have stayed quiet or run? I thought I was losing my mind. It never occurred to me that someone was already inside my house. This story is based on a real police case that was publicly reported. Details have been changed to protect identities. I lived alone in a small house just outside the city. 1 floor, small attic, no basement. Quiet, safe, familiar. At least that's what I thought. It started with food going missing. Nothing obvious, just small things. Bread slices disappearing faster than usual. Milk half empty when I swore it was full. I blamed myself. Stress does that. Then objects started moving. A chair slightly out of place. Cabinet doors not fully closed. Once I came home and smelled food cooking. The stove was off. I laughed it off. Old wiring, old house. But the feeling never left. That constant pressure like being watched. One night I woke up around 3 a.m. Not because of noise, because of movement. Something subtle, like weight shifting above me. I stared at the ceiling. The attic access panel was directly over my bedroom. I held my breath. The sound stopped. The next day I checked the attic. At first it looked normal. Dust, insulation, old boxes. Then I noticed something that didn't belong. Flattened insulation. Like someone had been lying there. There were footprints. Leading to the far corner, hidden behind boxes, was a makeshift space. Blankets, empty food wrappers, bottles of water. Someone had been living there, quietly, watching. I called the police immediately. When officers searched the attic further, they found a phone charger plugged into an extension cord, a flashlight, a notebook. Inside the notebook were timestamps. Times I left for work, times I returned. One entry read, "Sleeps deeply." The officers told me something I still think about. There were signs the person had come down from the attic while I was asleep. They had accessed the kitchen. The bathroom. My bedroom door showed faint marks like it had been opened and closed carefully, silently. The person was caught 2 days later. He had been entering homes through unlocked attic vents, living inside them for weeks at a time, sometimes longer. I moved out immediately. I still check ceilings when I enter a room. I still lock doors instinctively. And I still sleep with the lights on. Because the scariest part wasn't that someone broke in. It's that they stayed. What makes this terrifying isn't violence. It's patience. Someone was close enough to watch and chose not to be seen. Do you check your attic or crawl space? Or would you have never known? My phone kept unlocking itself every night. I wish I had never checked why. This is a confession someone shared anonymously online. I'm retelling it because the explanation still doesn't feel real. I live alone in a basement apartment. 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, 1 way in and out. Cheap rent, quiet neighborhood. I sleep with my phone on the nightstand, screen facing down. Every night. A few weeks ago, I woke up around 2 a.m. to the sound of vibration, not a notification. Just that soft, hollow buzz phones make when they wake up. I flipped it over. The screen was on, unlocked. I assumed I'd rolled over and hit it by accident. I went back to sleep. The next night, it happened again. Same time, same vibration, unlocked. This time, my phone was open to the camera app. Front camera. I stared at my reflection for a second, then locked it and put it face down. I laughed it off. Phone's glitch Face ID messes up. That's what I told myself. But the feeling didn't go away. By the 4th night, I started paying attention. 2:11 a.m. Every time. Always unlocked. Always recently used. I checked my screen time history. The phone had been active for several minutes while I was asleep. I changed my passcode, turned off Face ID, covered the camera with tape. That night, I slept with the phone under my pillow. At 2:11 a.m., I woke up again. No vibration this time, just awareness. That feeling you get when you know something is wrong before you understand why. I reached under the pillow. My phone wasn't there. I sat up. The phone was on my nightstand, unlocked. The camera app was open, recording. I grabbed the phone and stopped the video. My hands were shaking. I watched it. At first, it was just darkness, then the sound of breathing. Not mine, then movement. The camera angle shifted slowly like someone was holding it. The video ended with a close-up of my face as I slept. I called the police. They searched the apartment. No forced entry. No signs of anyone else. Before they left, one officer asked a question that made my stomach drop. "Do you always lock your bedroom door at night?" I said yes. He pointed at the door. The lock was turned from the inside. I moved out the next day. Didn't pack everything. Didn't sleep there again. I factory reset the phone and threw it away. Sometimes I still wake up around 2:11 a.m. and for a few seconds, I wait for the vibration. What scares me most isn't the phone. It's that whoever did this didn't rush. They waited. They watched. And they knew exactly when I'd wake up.